Hello everyone, hope that you all are doing well. So just to clarify, we are performing all other operations in the CRUD correctly, leaving aside the U, that is the update operation. So today we'll correct the update APIs in the CRUD operation. But before jumping into the video's context, let me request you, if you gain some knowledge out of my videos, please do like, share, comment on the video. If new to the channel, please subscribe and press the bell icon. Let's first discuss how many types of API we can make to perform update operations in the CRUD. You might have noticed in my previous videos of CRUD operation, we were using post APIs for update operations, be it with MySQL, Postgres or MongoDB. But now let's see how many ways we can write the update operation in the CRUD. Let me take you to the definition part. So there are three ways in which we can write the update operation in the CRUD. So one is the post way. The most common way is the post. We have three different ways in which we can write the CRUD update operation, right? So those are post operation, put operation and patch operation, right? So we can write three different types of APIs like post, put, patch to perform update operation while we are writing our REST APIs. So by going by the definition, let's discuss what are all these three. So post APIs, the post method is used to submit an entity to a resource. It is used to creating a new resource or adding a new entity to an existing resource, right? So this word that is written, that creating a new resource or adding a new entity to an existing resource, this means that the object is not present in the database and we are creating a new object for our database, right? We are inserting new entry into the database, it was not present previously. So this post APIs should only be used when we are performing the create operation, that is the C part in the CRUD, right? When we are first time inserting some data into the database. So for updating, we should use put and patch APIs, right? So what put API do is, the put API method is used to update a resource or create a new resource if it doesn't exist. When a put request is sent, the entire resource is replaced with the new data. If the resource does not exist, it will be created. You might say that post and put are almost same. No, it's not like that. So put and patch are being used for update operation, post is being used for create operation. So put API, basically in the case of put API, we should have the ID of the data that we want to update, right? And in this case, if I say that our entity consists of 5 fields, then in put API, all those 5 fields will get replaced with the new data, right, that we are inserting for that particular ID. So there we'll use the put API. Then there is a third type, that is a patch API. So the patch method is used to partially update a resource. It is useful when you want to update only a few fields of resource without replacing the entire resource. Now let's take an example that our entity, our object that has been that we want to update into the database have 5 fields. But now I just want to update only a single field. Then I can use the patch API. I just want to partially update the data into the database, right? I want to completely update the data in the database and I want to create the data into the data. So these three different type of APIs are being designed for these different operations, right? So now onwards we should use put and patch APIs for updating the data into the database. So now as we understood the difference in each and where to implement what, let's do a code example now. So now let's go to the IDE and let's create a new project and let's implement this example, right? So let me create a new project and let me say Spring Starter Patch API implementation. That's my name of the project, and let's go ahead. So here as we'll be dealing with simple example, so I won't be taking much of the dependencies. Just we need the Spring Data JPA dependency, Spring Web dependency, the basic for creating our entities and everything. So it would be a REST API, so I don't need any UI dependency like theme leaf or anything. I would be requiring MySQL dependency as in database we'll be using. So let's finish and let's import the project. So now our project is imported. Let's start working on it. Let me first take you to pom.xml. So we have added 3 dependencies. So we'll be having dependency of Spring Boot Starter Web. Then we have MySQL connector, the test dependency and the Spring Data JPA dependency, right? So we just need these dependencies to work upon. So let me close this and let's start by simply making the packages. I'll be keeping the example very simple. So it would be a simple REST API that we'll be testing it from Postman. So let's start making packages. So we'll be requiring packages. First would be a model package, and then we will be requiring another package that would be for repository, right, or repository, and a controller package. So we have these three packages. Now let's start making the entity. First, let me make a model that we'll be using for inserting the data into the database. So let me say new class. So a simple example of a product, right? So let me say name finish, and first of all we'll be requiring int id, right, and then we'll be requiring a private string name, right, and let me copy this up. Be requiring option, and then let's take double price, right, and private int quantity in stock, right. So we'll be dealing with the examples based on these variables that we have taken, these fields that we have taken in the product entity. So let me make the getters and setters, and then I'll be declaring the table and everything. So let me say generate getters and setters, and let me mark select all. Our getters and setters are made. So let's mark this. First mark the entity as @entity, right, and we need an annotation to tell that this is a table that we need in the table database. So let me say product name as product, right. So and just we need to mark this as id for persistence, and then we also need the generator. So now we will be needing to define that what would be the strategy of generating the primary key. So that would be at the generated value, and let me say strategy equals generator type dot auto. So we are done with the entity part, right? So this is my entity product, and we have these fields in our entity. So we'll be updating these fields, right, when we'll be performing the REST APIs. So now the next package is of repositories. So let me define interface, that is a product repository extends JPA. We just need to pass. So we'll be using the operations that are predefined, so we don't have to change anything. We don't have to write here anything. So we are done with this, right. So we have made a product repository as well. So now let's go to the controller part, and let's start designing our REST API. So let me say a class that would be a product controller, and let me mark this as @REST controller. So now what is required here is, first what is needed is that we should have some data into a database, right. So first API would be of create, that would be a post API, right. So the post API that we discussed, that post should be used only for creating an object, right. So let me mark this first API as post API, post mapping, and let's say it's save, right, and let's simply say public, and we'll be returning the object. So let me say product, let me import it, save product, right, and we'll be getting some data in for saving the data. So we'll say request body, right, request body, and we'll be passing the product object, product. I'm not following that the abstraction thing. I'm directly exposing my data because look, this is a very small example that we are taking. So you can make a DTO object of product, and then that you can pass in your this save product method, and that you can accept from the user from the REST API caller, right. So I have exposed the product API right now here. So let's say that I'm getting a product API, and I just have to return the value We are not going into that the verification that okay the data is coming or not. I'm simply this motive of this example is to tell you that how to write a put and patch API and when to write a put and patch API, right? So right now we just have to return the product by saving it, right? So let me first auto wire the repository, right? So let me say auto wire and let me say product, right? So we just need a product repository, yeah, product repository dot save, and we'll be passing the product object, right? So this is what we have to return in the post API, right? So now the second API would be to get the data, right? So don't go by the words that the CRUD would do, because we'll not be making a delete API here. So we'll just be doing simple operations to get to know the idea of how to write a put API and a patch API, right? So now we'll be writing a get API, right? So for getting the data, so let me say all data, right? Not going by the ID, just getting all the data from the database, right? So let me say public, and we'll be returning a list of products. So list, the util list, and let me pass the product get all products, right? And we don't need anything as an input, just we have to get the data and we have to return it, right? So we will be needing a product repository and we'll say find all, right? Find all, will return a list, right? So we are done with the get API as well. So now what we have to do, let's take an example. Let's write a put API first, or rather we'll write a patch API first. So as told, let me go back to the definition part. So what the patch API says it that patch method is used to partially update a resource. It is useful when you want to update only a few fields, right? And so if we go back to our product entity, so what field do you think that would be a single field that would get updated? So I think so that quantity in stock should get singly updated, right? So the stock could get decreased, stock could get increased. So patch could be used for that only, right? So we just need to update the quantity in stock, right? So how we'll do that? Let's write a REST API for that. So what we can say @patch. So it says @patch mapping, and we'll say update quantity, right? And we'll say public, we have to return the product only which has been updated, so we'll return the product, update quantity, right? Now for update quantity, as I said that we already have that data into the database, just that we have to update it. So we will be requiring the ID of that product data that is present in the database. So we'll have to pass the ID in the mapping. What we have to do is we have to get the ID, right? So let me pass the ID as well, right? And we'll get the ID in the call, right? Update quantity / ID, that what product data quantity needs to be changed, right? Needs to be updated. So here we'll be accepting two things, right? So we'll not be accepting the complete product entity. We'll be accepting only a single field, right? The field that needs to be updated. So here first we'll be accepting the ID, right? So let me say path variable, and let me say int ID, and then the second thing that we'll be accepting @request param, right? Request param int quantity, right? So the quantity will be supplied to us as a number, and we have to update it into the database. So what operations we can perform here is we can simply say that okay, we have to get the data from the database using this particular ID that has been supplied to us, right? So what we can say, we can simply use the product repository, and we can find by id, right? So there is an method called as find by id, and let's say optional, java util optional, and then we have to pass the product, and we have to say product equals, right? So now I have a product that is present in the database with this particular id. So I have to get this. Now what I can do is we can simply say that okay, if the product dot is present, right? If it is present in the database, now what I have to do is, so now we have to update the quantity if it is present in the database, right? So what we can do is we have to make a new product product existing product, right? Existing product equals product dot get, right? So it will get the object, and now we can simply say existing product dot set quantity to quantity, right? And what we can simply say, we can rather I should return product repository dot save, right? And save the existing product object. Now existing product object has the updated quantity, right? So it will get saved into the database and it will update the database. Now it will show the error, so we have to write the else part as well. So we have to say throw new, we can say illegal argument exception, as we can mark it as the id given. So we can simply throw illegal argument exception, says at throws declaration. So this is how you can make your patch API, right? So what we are doing here is we are accepting an ID and a quantity, and then we, from that ID, we are finding the data in the database, and then we are updating the quantity into that database and saving that data again, right? And returning it to the user. So this was our patch API, right? So now what we have to do is we have to write the put API. So let me say put mapping, right? So here also we are expecting that the data is already present in the database and we have to update that data, right? So what we can simply say is we can simply use update, and we are expecting that there is ID already there in the database. So I say that okay, yes, we have to update the data but with the particular ID. So now what we can do, we can write a method that is public, and we also need to update product, right? So as the definition of put mapping, put API says that it is update the resource or create a new resource if does not exist. So it is like a put request is sent to entire resources replaced, right? So it says that entire resource is replaced, so we have to replace the entire resource leaving aside the ID. Let's go back and let's say we will be having same like a path variable ID, and we'll be having a request body product, right? So we will be having a product, right? So this is this should update the complete product, right? So same things we have to do. Same, we can copy it from above code, that we have to first find it through that ID, that what is the we can simply say existing product, right? And if we have, if it's not present, if it's present in the database, great, we have the data into the database, and we can simply say that okay, new product, right? We can say new product, not using the existing product. Let's say new product, and we can say existing product dot get, right? So now we have the complete product, right? complete product that is saved into the database now, but we have to replace it with this particular product, right? So we have to replace this with this particular product. So now how to do that? We have to simply call the getters and setters, right? So we have the new product now. So what we have to do is we already have the existing product, right? So we have this product object has the complete data that is already saved into the database, but we have to update it with this particular product object that is coming to us through a REST call. So now what we have to say, new product dot set description. We can simply say product. So now we have updated everything, leaving aside the ID. Now what we have to do is we have to simply perform the update operation, that is the save operation. So we can simply say return, and we can say product repository dot save, and we can pass the new product, right? So it will get saved into the database and it will be returned, right? And if it's not present, then we have to simply throw the illegal argument exception that the ID that has been supplied is not present in the database. So it will ask me to declare the throws. So let me throws right here. So this is how you can make your put API and the patch API. Patch API here is being used only to update a single field, that is the quantity. But the update operation that we are performing through put operation, we are completely changing the entity, right? So the existing source is completely changed in the put API. So now we are done with the code part. Let me write to the application properties, and then we can run the application. So let me go to application.property and the username password. So let me put the username and the password, and then we have the Hibernate direct that we are using the MySQL database, right? So first let's go to MySQL database and let's create a schema, right? So let me let me run this. So we have put patch IMPL already there now. So let me mark this as default, set as default, and let me put this written the wrong names. So let me take this way only. So let me say put patch IMPL, right? So these are my properties. So now let's go to the main class of the code. This was the main class. So let me run the code now. Go and run the code. So the put patch API has started. So let's see if our databases are made. So you can see that the tables are made. So we have the product table already made in the database. So now we can go to the Postman and simply so it says no data is present, right? So first let's update the data into the database. So let's say save, and let me hit the save API, but this would be a post API. So let's select post, and let me select the body, and we need a raw body. So we'll be using a JSON. So now we have to save this data into the database. Let me hit this API. So yes, our data is saved into the database. So it has returned me a value that, okay, the first ID is 1 and the name is car, description is it's a toy car, price is 100, quantity in stock is 10. So let's go to the database as well, and let me select the queries, and let's see that if we have some data. Yes, we have some data into the database. So now let's also insert another thing that is like a bat, right? So it's a cricket bat. It is a cricket bat, right? The price is 1100 and the quantity pieces are 5, right? So let me send this. So we have another entry of the data, right? It is a cricket bat and it's a bat. So now if I say let me get the get all data API, let me go to the controller and let me say get all data, right? So let me say get all data. So it should show me 2 entries. So it is, why it is not showing me an entry? Oh, sorry, I have selected the post. Sorry, post should not be needed here. So I have to go for the get API and it should show me 2 entries, right? So first entry and the second entry. Now for the first entry, let me update the quantity, right? So let me go to the API So what is the API for a quantity? That is the patch API, right? And I have to use this particular URL. So the ID for my URL is 1. I have to update the quantity here, right? So what we need is we have to go to the params, right? So we have to go to the params, and params we need a quantity, right? So we don't need a body, we need a quantity here in the params. So we have to pass this in the quantity, and we have to pass the value here as 20, right? So we don't need a body here, so it's not a post call, so we don't need a body here, but we need a params here. So let me hit the value now. So yeah, right, so now you can see that the first entry that we used, we updated the quantity to 20. So it was 10 for previously it was 10 and now it's 20, right? So this is how you can use the patch API, right? So now if I go back to the post API, the same way you have to use the put API, right? So same way the post and put are almost same, right? So we have to pass the ID, we have to pass the slash update, right? So now I would be updating. First let me get the data so that we have the idea that our data has been updated from patch API. So the patch API has updated the data, quantity has been updated to 20, right? And the second ID data is still present, and it's like I have to update this complete of a product, that is bat product, completely change the data in this ID2, right? So how can I do that? Let me select the post API, and rather I should go on post API, yeah, post API, and let me select put, and we have something in the body, right? So we have car and that and that. So now I have to tell that okay, we have to update the data. So let me say update, and I have the ID2. So I have to pass the ID2 and I have to update the data. So now in the second data that we published to the database, let me go to the database and let's check again. So let's check again. What was the second data? It was a cricket bat, right? So let's update the complete database data into the database, right? So let me say that the bat is now named as a cricket bat, right? And or rather it will the description could change to it's a professional bat, right? It's a professional bat, and now the cost of the bat is being changed to 20,000. Let me say 20,000, right? So it's now of 20,000, and now the quantity is being decreased to 5, right? So we have to update the data for the ID2, right? So firstly what we have in for ID2 is that it is a cricket bat, and the name of the product is bat, and the price is 1100, and the quantity is 5. The quantity should also be changed to 2, right? And 20,000 would be the price. A description would change to it's a professional bat, and the name would be a cricket bat. So let me go for a put API. So yes, it has been updated for this particular API. So if I go to the database as well, let me again select the complete rows. So yes, you can see that the data is being updated. It's a professional bat, cricket bat, 20,000, and the quantity is 2. So this is how you can make use of put and patch APIs for your CRUD operations, right? So I hope that you people might have got an idea of where to use put patch APIs and where to use the post API, right? So this was it from this video. I hope you might have understood the difference between put, patch, post APIs and where to use what. So hope that you people like, share, comment on the video, and if new to the channel, please subscribe and press the bell icon. Hope to see you in the next video. Till then, happy learning.